what does it mean to be on a spiritual path, and how do we visualize that, and how can that help or hinder our progress in what we're trying to achieve? I just want to talk a bit around how a moment in my life made me realize that my vision of the path I was on was actually hindering my progress and stopping me from living life fully. So it was a particular moment. I was actually out walking close to my home, as I often do, and I was walking along the edge of a field. And there was a path which was very narrow. It was more like a kind of animal track rather than a path built by human hands. And I was walking along, wanting to follow this path, and it happened that there'd been a storm the night before, and a tree had fallen across the path, which meant that I couldn't carry on along the path that I wanted to walk along. So I got to the tree, and I felt very curious about the tree, and I actually decided to climb up on the tree that had fallen. And I noticed it had fallen across a brook and kind of formed a bridge across to the other side. So I walked across, and then at the other side was a much wider path, which was tarmacked. It was a path for people to walk around on the other side of the field and around a housing estate. And as I climbed down from the tree, I also noticed there was a man there, a tall man with a dark overcoat and a tiny little dog he was saying to the dog, "Sit, sit," in a high-pitched voice like that, which drew my attention because it was kind of like a big man with a squeaky voice. And he was telling the dog to sit, but the dog was just running around in circles and completely ignoring the instructions. And the man looked at me, happy. He obviously loved the dog, and he wanted me to see what a beautiful dog he had. So this moment just stuck in my mind so much. It felt so meaningful. And a Bible verse came to mind, actually, which I'm just going to read out. It's from Matthew 7:13-14. It says, "Wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." So I used to have a lot of Bible verses in my mind when I read the Bible a lot and when I went to church. But what I realized is that this thing that happened with the narrow path, with the obstruction, and then the wider path with the man with the playful dog, that I'd actually been visualizing my path as very restrictive and very narrow, and crossing over that tree, which had formed a bridge, brought me onto a different path, which was wider and more playful and engaged better with life. And it just made me realize I'd sort of taken that Bible verse and that understanding and applied it in a way that was really unhelpful. And it meant that I was just being very restrictive in what I was doing, sort of scared of stepping out of line or making a mistake. But actually that meant that I wasn't living my life fully. And getting onto the wider path and seeing that man with the dog and seeing how playful he was and how he was just unconscientious, talking in a high-pitched voice, having fun. It was just a different way of being. And that moment just really stuck in my mind as being, okay, this metaphor that I've had of the path of life or the path of my spiritual journey has restricted me, and I need to change it to be something that's more encompassing, more engaging with life, more playful, more enjoyable, and just more free.